Coming up on First at 4, the ATF and other agencies are investigating after a fire destroyed a Clay County church. And the first hearing in a lawsuit involving the London mayor was held this morning. We'll tell you what happened.
Plus, cooler conditions continue tomorrow before some sunshine returns for Mother's Day. Your forecast on the way as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, breaking news from federal court in London. Former Perry County Commonwealth's Attorney Scott Blair has pleaded guilty to committing honest services wire fraud. Blair was arrested last month and is now admitting he helped people in court in exchange for methamphetamine and sexual favors. He resigned shortly after his arrest. The investigation was conducted by Kentucky State Police, the Attorney General's office, and the FBI. Blair faces up to 20 years in prison, although many think it will be far shorter than that. But again, former Commonwealth's Attorney in Perry County, Scott Blair, pleading guilty this afternoon to wire fraud. London Mayor Randall Weddle is suing a woman for defamation after he says she reportedly made social media posts about him. WYMT's RJ Johnson was in the courtroom today.
Back in February, London Mayor Randall Weddle filed a complaint against a woman by the name of Sherry Smith. Weddle claims Smith reportedly used defamatory statements in several posts on Facebook between 2023 and 2024. In the initial complaint, Weddle's attorney says her statements have impacted Weddle's reputation as an elected official. The defense motioned to dismiss the case in April, claiming the original complaint fails to share how relief can be granted and that the claims are barred by the statute of limitations, the doctrines of unclean hands, and the Kentucky Uniform Public Expression Act. In Weddle's response to that motion, his counsel says it should be overruled. Coming up tonight at 6, I'll break down the arguments on both sides and where the case currently stands. But for now, in London, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Both attorneys told WYMT they wanted to wait until a decision was made before providing a statement. The superintendent of the West Virginia State Police says there's been an uptick in non-compliant situations involving police. Superintendent Jack Chambers in a news conference this morning asking for the public to comply with law enforcement. He says that 2 events in the last week have led to loss of life and a trooper stabbed multiple times, and that a refusal to comply only leads to the offender getting into more trouble and getting law enforcement, suspects, offenders, and innocent citizens all put at risk.
I am requesting that people, when you're given directives, signal to pull over, to simply comply. A refusal to comply only leads to the offender getting in more trouble.
This news conference comes after an incident Wednesday night where Trooper Travis Hurley was stabbed in the neck. Chambers says Hurley was released from the hospital yesterday and that there is still a chance he could lose part of his finger. Authorities are investigating a church fire in southern Kentucky. The church in Clay County was destroyed earlier this week, but questions are being raised after another structure burned nearby this morning. WYMT's Phil Pendleton takes a closer look.
The ATF and State Fire Marshal are among those investigating the cause of this fire that destroyed this church. And while they were already suspicious of this fire, people who go to this church, as well as those in the community, say that there was another fire that happened just down the road here, and now that fire is also under investigation. ATF agents were seen in the area Friday morning as another building, this one a storage facility of a former convenience store, burned down. The agents were already investigating the fire that destroyed the Solid Rock House of Prayer on Kentucky 421 about 6 miles north of Manchester. It started in a storage building but quickly spread to the main church, burning it down to the foundation. Multiple fire departments responded, and now it's got the attention of local, state, and federal investigators. There's no official word on if arson is to blame.
You always hope for the sake of humanity that, you know, it's not, but the reality is we'll see how the investigation goes.
Nobody was hurt in the fire. Church members say they were able to save some musical instruments as well as some Bibles. Clay County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Investigators say it is too early to say what exactly caused either fire to start.
We are tracking some below average weather to close out the work week. Those highs should be in the 70s. Most of us right now, though, in the 50s and 60s up on First Alert Pinpoint Doppler. Also tracking some light showers on this Friday. Zooming into the Big Sandy Valley, some light sprinkles not too far away from downtown Pikeville, close to Feds Creek, also close to Phelps, pushing into parts of Mingo and Logan counties over in West Virginia, also into parts of Buchanan and Dickinson County over in Virginia. And some more light showers on US 119 from Cumberland close to downtown Harlan over in Harlan County and affecting places in Lee and Wise counties at this hour. Like I said, most of us today in the upper 50s and lower 60s up to 61 for Jackson, 59 right now for Manchester, 60 in Harlan and 58 over in London. So we are much cooler on this Friday. Most of us 10 to 20 degrees cooler on this Friday, and that cool down is set to continue as we go into this evening. A small chance of a stray shower, maybe a few sprinkles. But for most of us, we stay dry and cool to go into tonight. Those lows are back in the 40s to wake up and kick off your weekend. But the sunshine is not far away. More details on that Mother's Day weekend forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. One Kentucky hospital is working to help future nurses get into the field. CHI St. Joseph in Lexington has a new partnership with Lincoln Memorial University, offering students more opportunities to get their nursing degrees. LMU's Kaler School of Nursing is expanding to Lexington. Starting next week, the St. Joseph Office Park will be transformed into classrooms, skills labs, and simulation rooms.
When you can get into a lab and actually do patient scenarios and talk through, it makes that teamwork, that collaboration.
Bennett says getting exposure to the profession and access is key, which is how their partnership with Lincoln Memorial has been so critical. Coming up on First at 4, the Apple Blossom Festival in Elkhorn City is underway. What to expect with this year's edition.
And we are tracking a few showers in the short term, but drier and more sunny weather is on the way. Those details coming up.